Hey, everybody. It is Wayne with Ugly Mug Marketing. I hope you are having a good day today. I hope you're staying safe and keeping your distance, following all the guidelines that are put out there for us right now. I'm excited because we have a guest with us today, all the way from Battleground, Washington. Josh Monin is with us. Hey, Josh, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Wayne. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So Josh is a copywriter by trade. He has been doing copywriting on his own as a freelancer now for how long, Josh?
Yeah, it's coming up on 9 years in May. It'll be my 9 year mark.
9 years, and you've literally worked with clients all over the world. I'm guessing, I know for sure, across the United States.
Yep. And yeah, in Australia, all over the US and Canada and the UK and even in Africa. Yeah, actually. So yeah, all over.
Yeah, that's awesome. So before we dive in, just kind of give a brief explanation for those not familiar with the term copywriting. What exactly does that term even mean?
Yeah, good question. So the simplest explanation, it's salesmanship in print. So it's basically sales writing. It's business writing. Some people call this commercial freelance writing. So basically, I'm hired to be the word person to help businesses communicate effectively to their audiences.
Excellent. And for those who've studied sales and marketing before, you're probably familiar with the term copywriting. For those who may be new to it, it may be a new term to you or for you. So one of the things I want to talk about today, Josh, is in the midst of this crisis that so much of the world and certainly our country finds ourselves in right now, um, what should business owners be communicating with their customers, their clients, and their prospective customers and clients?
Yeah, good question. I mean, obviously, this is it's a crazy time, for everybody, for just on the individual basis and businesses. And I'd say, one thing to remember is right now this is on everybody's mind. So in the copywriting world, there's a kind of a catchphrase that says you should join the conversation that's going on in your customer's mind when you're writing. So basically, be aware of what's going on, and we know what's going on in almost everybody's mind right now is the COVID-19 stuff. So of course, just like being mindful that every time you sit down to write a Facebook post or an email or you're updating your website, I'm not saying everything has to talk to that, but just know that it's on their mind. So if you can find a way to start the conversation there, even if you eventually turn it a different direction, I think that would be really helpful for businesses to remember.
Yeah, no, that's great. Kind of in that same vein, how often right now should business owners be communicating with their audiences?
Yeah, so I would say that depends on kind of the nature of the business and the relationship you have with your audience. So, for example, if you are used to emailing once a week, I think it's still okay to continue to email weekly, but you may want to add in, a couple more emails during the week. That would not be, that would not be unusual during this time. So if you're only emailing once a month and you start emailing every day, it could kind of maybe violate the relationship you already have with that person because they're not used to that. Just kind of think about relationships you have with people, in real life, where it's like, if you only talk with them once every quarter or something, all of a sudden they call you every day, it can get a little unusual, So just think about what you've done in the past. And events like this do warrant a little bit more frequent updates and communication, especially if it's necessary, So like if you own a restaurant or a gym or something like that, where, you're very directly impacted by this, people are wondering, are you open? Are you doing takeout, stuff like that? So think about if it's necessary to have more frequent updates, and then don't be shy about that. People will understand. That's the thing too. Sometimes people are so nervous about sending too many emails or too many posts. But during times like this, people know that it's unusual, and so I think there's more grace for more communication coming their way because they know eventually this will pass. So it's not a forever type of thing.
Right. So what you're saying is if, one would be to kind of maintain the frequency that you've maintained in the past with your communication, unless the situation warrants more frequent communication, like you said, a restaurant or another gym or things like that are directly impacted and having to adjust, availability hours, things like that. What, I know that for so many of us out there right now, we're getting emails literally from every single company in the world that ever had our email address,
Yeah.
and they're all telling us how they're handling COVID-19. One, do you think that every single small business owner should put something out that says how they're addressing COVID-19, or do you think if it's unwarranted, meaning it hasn't impacted your business, should you not join in that kind of cluttered inbox with, here's how we're handling COVID-19?
Right. Yeah, it's no right or wrong answer to that, So something to think about though is just some kind of guiding principles, because we all are inundated with emails and notifications from businesses right now. I mean, just open up your email inbox, scroll through that, and if you're like me, you've gotten an email from every company you've ever done business with in the last 10 years about what's going on. So people are just inundated with that. So what I would say is, go through your inbox is a good example. Look at all the messages that you've received, and if you're about to send, exact same kind of message, ask yourself, is it any really is it different than what they're already getting? Like basically, are you adding value beyond, the tips that everyone's got right now? I mean, we should all be expert hand washers by now and understand all these different things because we've all got the tips, and they're good, but if you're not adding value, it's just gonna become noise, So think of ways where you could be more of a human, So even if you're not used to being like really transparent or conversational or this would be a time to do that. This is a time where I think people are, there's a lot of uncertainty about the future. People, are kind of banding together, wanting to help each other. It's just, in times of crisis, you see, the good and the bad come out, but I think there's a lot of good coming out, and people, I think, are more open to want to hear like what's going on with you. Like if you're a family-owned business, how has this in fact impacted you and your family? Or, so I would say maybe go outside your comfort zone a little bit to reveal a little bit more of the human side of who you are, because we got all the tips from the CDC and all that kind of stuff, and it's good, but I don't think that's really what people need right now.
No, that's an excellent point, and I completely agree with that in terms of shifting to the more human side. What would you say to someone who says, "But we're a B2B company, we're B2B, and people aren't used to dealing with or having that personal interaction. It's much more a business transaction." How would you address that? Do you still think they should kind of alter their messaging to, as you said, kind of the more human side?
Yeah, I would challenge even B2B companies to be a little bit more conversational and human in their communications, because usually people still have a relationship with someone at that business. It's not really, the relationship isn't with like the business, corporate entity. It's someone, at that business. So this could even be a time to introduce maybe a new personality out there. So for example, say your emails always come from support or admin or kind of the company. Maybe you introduce your HR person or someone, and so they have a name and a face that represents the company, and they talk about maybe how they're handling things or stuff like that. So it's there's opportunity, even if you're a B2B, to introduce the human side of things.
Now there's some great tips. So for all of you out there, watching this on Facebook, look for ways, like Josh said, to figure out how you could introduce the human side of your business. One of the things that we like to do for our clients is we do like to showcase, meet so-and-so, a staff member from one of the clients that we work with. And I can tell you that even in normal times, when we do those type of posts for ourselves or for our clients, those posts on Facebook, on social, do better than just about any other post that we do. So when we humanize the business, those posts resonate because the other people on the other side of that interaction are human as well.
Right. And a lot of companies obviously are working from home now. So if you're thinking of like ideas, well, what would we say or what would we show? That could be an example right there. It could just be, hey, we used to work here, in this office environment. Now people are in their homes, and maybe something about what work is like when, you don't see everyone on a day-to-day. Maybe you have like group Zoom hangout times or stuff like that. I mean, I think people are interested to know, like, how is this impacting businesses, and especially if you're a local business, like here in my town, Battleground, we're a small town, it's a little over 20,000 people population. And it's a pretty close-knit community. I know a lot of the restaurant owners and stuff like that. And me and my wife are wondering like, hey, how are they doing? Like, unfortunately, we heard one of them just closed down, just yesterday. They've been around for about 9 years, and they're shutting their doors permanently now because of what's happened, and they just couldn't make it. And it's, it's sad, but it's like, it's not just business, like these are relationships and stuff. So we want to know how everybody's doing, so I think if you're local, it's okay to share some of these stories. And then think of think of maybe questions that people try to anticipate questions that people are having right now that maybe are not being answered online. Like, for example, going back to the restaurants, like we've been trying to dine out more than we would, or do takeout, of course, just to support the local restaurants. So every night we're trying to choose a different restaurant to eat out at. But we don't know which ones are open, so it's like there's no resource in our whole community that says, these restaurants are open, these ones are closed. I mean, they're all, I'm talking about doing, takeout order. Obviously, we're not sitting down there, but like if you maybe are a restaurant in your city, you could not only showcase your hours, like, yes, we are doing, pickup, but here's all the other ones who are also open during this time, so think of ways you can maybe be a resource for your industry or your community, not just your own business too.
No, that's an excellent idea. So basically kind of sharing your spotlight with others in your community, other business owners in your community. And you could even look at doing that, not just with peers. In other words, other restaurants or other in the same industry. You could also look at doing that with your neighbors. So, if your neighbors in a different industry. So that's a great idea for those watching and listen. Just curious, you mentioned kind of humanizing the communication as an important part, and then, kind of shining the spotlight on others. Do you have any other ideas or tips on ways that people can stand out right now in terms of, there's a lot of messaging coming out in our inboxes and on social channels. Any other tips or ideas to help people's messages, kind of break through the clutter and the noise?
Yeah, some other tips I would say is if you have any stories that elicit hope in people, this would be a good time to share them. And we all need that. There's a lot of course, fear and people are scared right now, and there's for a lot of valid reasons. But there's the news is it's always there. Like we know the bad side, but I would say as a business, if there's any hope-filled stories, it's not to sugarcoat what's going on or stick your head in the sand, but people in times like this want to have hope for whatever it is. So if you have, even some good success stories or people who, I don't know, just something that, makes people smile. It could even be something, a little bit funny, like just think of ways where you could just elicit those kind of emotions, whether it's, just happiness or hope, or because people I think right now are starved for that, especially when they sit in front of their computer, they sit on their phone. They're just getting hit hard with a lot of things that are eliciting the negative emotion. So I think people are kind of starved for that right now. So, think about that. And other than that, I would just say, try to put yourself in the reader's shoes, and how could you add value to that person's life? I think a lot of people, when they think about communicating as a business person, they overthink it. But if they're just having a one-on-one conversation, like if they're just talking to someone, they have all this value that they drop, just like they can help in all these different ways. But then if you ask them to write a blog post or write an email, they're like freeze up. Like, I don't know what I would say. I have nothing of value to offer. And so it's kind of a mental trick. So maybe just think of like, you're just talking to a friend, like, hey, what are some tips you would share with them that you think could help improve their life? And then that could be what you used for the topic of your blog or email or whatever.
Yeah, those are great suggestions and ideas. Very practical, very tactile things that literally anybody watching this, regardless of the business, regardless of the industry, could do. I was looking here at the comments on Facebook, and Vivian, she mentioned she's with Wildwood Pizza, one of the partners there, and she said giving the spotlight to your neighbors helps bring the community together. And what I can tell you for those watching this, if you go take a look at what Vivian is doing and they're doing there on their page at Facebook, they're doing exactly that. They're taking their platform on social and they're using that to highlight and showcase others in the community who may not have the same, size of platform that Wildwood has. So Wildwood Pizza, for those watching this, go check out their page and take a look at what they're doing and how they're shining that spotlight on others to build the community. Yeah, to put you on the spot with a question here, Josh, it's one of my favorite questions, but given the situation that we find ourselves in right now as entrepreneurs, as business owners and leaders, are there any particular books that come to mind that you think would be a benefit, whether it doesn't have to be copywriting, just any books in general that you think would be beneficial if people have a little extra time right now? Maybe their business is, reduced hours or slowed down. Any book recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always reading books, and I'll just maybe grab the one that I was just reading this morning. So it's called Over Deliver by Brian Kurtz. And I was just kind of going through my notes on that because I was working on a copywriting campaign this morning. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. A lot of it is about copywriting and marketing, but a lot of it is just good, solid, like business wisdom. And I was looking for a particular quote in here. I don't know if I'll find it in time, but basically he says, every time you communicate with someone, it's there should be a purpose behind it, and it doesn't always need to be a transactional purpose like that you're trying to sell something, but know what the purpose is of that communication. Try to have it accomplish something. So don't just willy-nilly just put stuff out there just for the sake of putting stuff out there. So if you're going to post something, why are you doing that? And if you're trying to add value, be very clear about that. Like, well, this is not to sell something. This is to add value in this clearly defined way, and this is why I'm doing it. So but anyway, the book is Over Deliver by Brian Kurtz, and that would be my recommendation of the day.
Now that's a great one. As a matter of fact, I think that's the one that you sent me back maybe 6 months or so ago, maybe longer than that, but Great book. So Over Deliver, Brian Kurtz.
Yeah, Brian Kurtz, Kurtz.
Perfect. Well, Josh, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you're busy, and I know you've got a lot going on. For those watching this who are interested in taking advantage of maybe some of this downtime that they have, and maybe they're looking at their copy, whether that's on their website, whether that's on brochures, whatever it may be, any particular last parting words of advice for them as they look at those pieces, maybe how they could critique them or just determine if they need to work on those further or if they're good?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good opportunity, like you said, just to go through, starting with some of your main assets, like your website, go through that. And for a lot of people, it hasn't been updated in maybe years. I know sometimes that's the case with me. Like, we get so busy serving everyone else, we forget about our own needs there. So go through your website and go through it, even if it's just to clean up typos or clean up some of the grammatical stuff, just bringing it up to the next level. But maybe you want to create a couple new pages or something like that, or maybe you want to finally create that nurture sequence, like an email newsletter or something where you can more consistently communicate with your clients. This would be a good time to invest. That's the word that's been coming to my mind a lot lately. Like, this is a time where you might not be able to operate like business as usual, but it's a time where you could invest now and you're going to reap the fruit of that, later. And so creating content and things like that, if things are slowing down, could be a great investment right now that will pay off, when things return back to normal in the future.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And for those who may need some help or want some help from you and your services, where can they go to learn more about what you do and how to contact you?
Sure. You can just go to my website. It's joshuamonin.com, and you probably just put the link in there if it's on Facebook, but it's JoshuaMonen.com, joshuamonin.com. Yeah, you can look at my samples, and I have some blog posts on there. And if you're interested or have any questions, you can always just fill out the contact form on there, and that goes right to my inbox.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. And we will definitely put a link to your site on the post here on Facebook for those who want to go check out what you're up to and learn more about your services. So thank you so much for taking time today to share.
Yeah, definitely. It's always a pleasure talking with you, Wayne.